One of the richest black NFL players in North Carolina's history earned a total of $164 million across 17 seasons, bought farmland instead of supercars, and retired with $70 million still sitting in the bank. But that's just a glimpse of the kind of black wealth we're diving into as we count down the 8 richest black NFL players from North Carolina. Stick around, because by the time you reach number 1, you'll see a fortune built so smart and so solid it's positioned to outlast generations. Number 8. Josh Norman. Josh Norman's wealth story is what happens when you get one massive payday, live like it'll last forever. Norman was a 5th-round pick out of Coastal Carolina in 2012, the kind of draft slot where most guys are praying they make the practice squad, not cashing 9-figure contracts. Then 2015 happened, and Norman lost his mind in the best way possible. 4 interceptions during Carolina's Super Bowl run, 2 returned for touchdowns, first-team All-Pro, Pro Bowl selection, the whole highlight reel. The Panthers slapped him with a franchise tag worth $13.9 million in 2016, then controversially rescinded it because apparently they didn't feel like paying him. Within literal days, Washington threw a 5-year, $75 million contract at him with $50 million guaranteed. At the time, it was one of the fattest cornerback deals in NFL history. Norman's total lifetime NFL earnings clock in around $65 to $70 million, which sounds absurd until you realize how taxes work. Federal government took 37% off the top. DC/VA/MD. State taxes grabbed another 5 to 8%. Agent took 3%. Add union dues and financial management fees, and Norman kept maybe 45 to 48% of that gross. Call it $30 to $35 million after Uncle Sam and everyone else finished eating. And Norman spent accordingly. Charlotte luxury estate worth $2.5 million featuring a pool and entertainment wing because apparently regular pools aren't enough. Miami condo investments. Porsche 911. Turbo sitting in the driveway. High-fashion wardrobe. European vacations. The full modern black athlete wealth aesthetic. Visible, stylish, unapologetic. Norman projected success loudly, which worked great when he was elite but became a problem when he wasn't. Because here's the thing about cornerback money. It evaporates the second you stop locking people down. Norman's Washington years were marked by underperformance relative to his cap hit, on-field feuds, most famously with Odell Beckham Jr., which became must-see TV for all the wrong reasons, and a gradual decline after hitting 30. His career became a cautionary tale about volatility, explosive peak earnings, but zero sustainability. The NFL's brutal truth: you can make $70 million and still end up wishing you'd saved more because the window closes faster than anyone thinks. But what if you're a quarterback who never became elite and still out-earned most All-Pros just by existing at the right position? That's exactly what our next icon did. Number 7. Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett cracked the code on NFL wealth without anyone noticing. And honestly, it's kind of genius. He transferred to NC State after starting at Florida, put up solid numbers in Raleigh, over 5,000 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, and got drafted by the Patriots in the 3rd round in 2016. Then he figured out something most players never do. In the NFL, being a mediocre quarterback pays better than being an All-Pro at literally any other position. Brissett has made over $40 million across his career without ever sniffing a Pro Bowl, MVP vote, or playoff run. His biggest contracts? A 2-year, $30 million extension with the Colts in 2019, plus a string of 1-year, $10 million plus bridge deals with Cleveland and other desperate teams. NFL franchises will pay obscene money for a quarterback who won't actively lose games, and Brissett monetized that desperation better than most. His wealth is 95% salary-driven with basically zero endorsement exposure. No Nike deals, no Gatorade campaigns, no Be Like Jacoby sneakers. Just NFL checks stacking up because he can take snaps under center without setting the franchise back 3 years. Quarterbacks earn disproportionate pay per snap, even the bad ones, and Brissett played that economic reality like a maestro. Here's where it gets smart. Brissett structured contracts with Florida-based teams whenever possible because Florida has no state income tax. That's not luck, that's strategy. Playing in California or New York means losing 10 to 13% to state taxes. Playing in Florida means keeping that money. Over a $40 million career, that's $4 million extra in your pocket just from geography. After federal taxes, agent fees, and living expenses, Brissett probably kept around $18 to $22 million net, putting his current worth at $15 to $18 million. Brissett's lifestyle is the opposite of flashy. Suburban real estate, private training investments, financial planning that prioritizes longevity over Instagram likes. No Lamborghinis, no nightclub bottle service videos. Just steady accumulation and tax optimization that most athletes never think about until it's too late. Brissett represents the new generation of black quarterbacks who understand that wealth longevity beats celebrity branding. He's not trying to be the next big thing. He's trying to retire at 40 with his money intact while his peers are doing reality TV to pay child support. And in all honesty, he's winning that game. Now, let's talk about an undrafted guy from Fairmont who wasn't supposed to make a dime and somehow stacked $40 million over 14 years. Number 6. Mario Addison. Mario Addison is the ultimate underdog wealth story, and it's wild that nobody talks about him. Born in Fairmont, North Carolina, went undrafted out of Troy in 2011, which statistically means you've got about a 2% chance of lasting more than 2 seasons in the NFL. Addison played 14 years and earned over $40 million, which is basically a financial miracle wrapped in shoulder pads. He bounced between practice squads early, making poverty wages, sleeping on friends' couches, praying for a roster spot, before finally earning a rotational role in Carolina. Then he just kept producing. Multiple 9.5-plus sack seasons during his prime made him a reliable edge rusher without ever becoming a household name. He never signed a flashy $75 million deal like Norman. Instead, he stacked mid-tier contracts across the Panthers, Bears, and Bills like someone collecting compound interest at a bank that pays in concussions. Addison's wealth is 98% salary-based because defensive ends named Mario, who went undrafted, don't get endorsement deals. No Nike commercials, no regional Chevy campaigns, just NFL paychecks and the discipline not to blow them on depreciating assets. He invested heavily in North Carolina farmland and local real estate, which is old-school black wealth strategy. Buy land, hold it, watch it appreciate while you sleep. After taxes, agent fees, and expenses, Addison kept maybe $18 to $20 million of that $40 million gross. Current net worth sits between $12 to $15 million, which might sound modest compared to stars, but for an undrafted player, that's generational money built purely on durability and refusing to live like an idiot. Addison's version of wealth is rooted in land ownership, not urban flash. He upgraded property in Fairmont, drives high-end pickup trucks instead of Maybachs, owns recreational vehicles for family trips, and acquired rural land that'll be worth double in 20 years. No Instagram stunting, no Miami penthouse posts. Just steady accumulation in a community he never left. Addison represents durability capital, staying healthy long enough that small contracts compound into serious money. In a league where the average career lasts 3 years and 78% of players go broke within 5 years of retirement, Addison played 14 seasons and built a portfolio that'll sustain his family indefinitely. That's not just smart, that's legendary. Addison made $40 million by simply refusing to get cut for 14 years straight. But what about a guy who tore his ACL 3 separate times, came back each time, and still cashed $72 million in checks? Number 5. Thomas Davis. Thomas Davis's wealth story is about resilience turned into revenue, and it's honestly one of the most insane comeback arcs in NFL history. UNC product, drafted by Carolina in 2005, solid linebacker doing solid things. Then in 2009, he tore his ACL brutal, but recoverable. Then in 2010, he tore it again. Career-threatening. Then in 2011, and I need you to understand how statistically impossible this is, he tore it a third time. Most players retire after 1 ACL tear. Some come back from 2 if they're lucky and insane. 3? That's basically a death sentence for your career. Except Davis said nah and came back anyway, becoming a team captain, defensive anchor, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner. He played 16 total seasons and earned $72 million, which feels like stealing when you consider his knees were held together with hope and surgical wire. Davis's contracts were structured with roster bonuses and incentive-based escalators because teams were rightfully nervous about his legs exploding again. But they never did, and he cashed every single check. His wealth is about 90% salary with additional income from speaking engagements, media appearances, and foundation-driven branding that created long-term value beyond just football. Davis invested in Charlotte area real estate and stable family portfolios with structured financial planning. He owns an estate near the NC/SC border worth around $2 million plus, with low volatility investments that prioritize stability over growth. After federal taxes, North Carolina's moderate state tax, and fees, Davis kept roughly $32 to $38 million of that $72 million gross, leaving current net worth around $15 to $18 million. But here's what separates Davis: his Thomas Davis. Defending Dreams Foundation reportedly impacted thousands of Carolina youth, turning wealth into legacy rather than just accumulation. His spending reflects purpose-driven priorities: family security, community investment, estate planning, instead of flashy consumption. No yacht posts, no exotic car collection, no nightclub videos. Just a man who defied medical science, earned generational money, and used it to build something sustainable. Davis embodies disciplined, purpose-driven Black wealth. He could have blown it all on toys and status symbols. Instead, he built a foundation that'll outlast him and provide for generations. That's the blueprint most athletes should follow but almost never do. Coming up next is a man who signed a $76 million extension and became one of the wealthiest defenders in North Carolina history by staying completely off the radar. Number 4. Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson is one of the most overlooked wealth stories in North Carolina football, and that's exactly how he wanted it. UNC standout, third-round pick in 2007, wasn't supposed to make elite money. Then he had an 11.5 sack season in 2010, and everything changed. In 2011, the Panthers handed him a 6-year, $76 million contract with roughly $32 million guaranteed, one of the fattest defensive end deals in NFL history at the time. Johnson's lifetime NFL income totals around $80 to $85 million, with wealth that's 97% salary-based. Almost zero endorsement footprint. No commercials, no brand partnerships, just contracts and smart allocation into North Carolina real estate. Unlike players who needed brand exposure to stay relevant, Johnson built capital in silence with front-loaded, bonus-heavy contracts that delivered strong early cash flow he could invest immediately. He played primarily in North Carolina's moderate tax environment, which helped retention compared to California or New York. After federal taxes hitting 37%, NC state tax, 3% agent fees, and financial advisory costs, Johnson's retained capital sits around $35 to $40 million. Current net worth lands between $20 to $25 million, reflecting preservation over expansion. Johnson's lifestyle screams quiet Black wealth. Waterfront North Carolina property worth over $2 million. Luxury SUVs instead of exotic car collections. Private investments with zero social media presence. He's the anti-Instagram athlete. No flexing, no reality TV, no podcast appearances. Just contracts, real estate, and compound interest doing its thing for 15 years. Johnson represents structured, low-volatility wealth accumulation. He understood defensive ends don't get sneaker deals, so he maximized salary negotiations, prioritized guaranteed money, and invested conservatively in assets that appreciate slowly but reliably. That's textbook generational wealth building. And it's why he's richer than players who earned similar money but spent it on depreciating garbage or high-risk ventures that failed spectacularly. Johnson made $85 million and disappeared into smart investments. But what about a former college basketball player who became an elite tight end? battled the NFL over position pay, and walked away with $75 million. Number 3. Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham was born in Goldsboro, played college basketball before realizing football paid better, and built his fortune on being rare. During his prime, elite receiving tight ends were unicorns, and Graham monetized that scarcity like he was selling water in a desert. With the Saints, he put up multiple 1,200-yard seasons, dropped 16 touchdowns in 2013, and became Drew Brees' favorite red zone target. He redefined what teams would pay for a pass-catching tight end. In 2014, Graham fought the NFL over his franchise tag, arguing he played more like a wide receiver and deserved receiver money. He lost the grievance technically, but the pressure forced Seattle to throw a 4-year, $40 million deal at him with $21 million guaranteed. Combined with Saints contracts, Graham's total NFL earnings hit $70 to $75 million. His wealth breaks down to roughly 85 to 88% salary, 10% endorsements through Jordan Brand and regional campaigns, and 2 to 5% in real estate plus aviation interests. Playing in Louisiana with moderate taxes and Washington with zero state income tax significantly improved retention. Those Washington years alone saved him millions. After taxes and fees, Graham kept around $30 to $35 million, with current net worth sitting between $25 to $30 million. But here's where Graham's wealth gets interesting. He diversified into lifestyle assets that appreciate. Seattle lakefront estate worth multiple millions that he later sold for profit. Miami property portfolio generating rental income. Yacht ownership because apparently boats are investments if you're rich enough. And he's a licensed pilot with aviation hobbies that evolved into private aircraft leasing involvement, turning a hobby into another income stream. Graham's wealth represents global mobility. He's not tied to one city or one strategy. Properties across multiple markets. Maritime assets. Aviation exposure. Passive income from rentals and leasing. This is sophisticated black wealth that transcends geography and generates returns from assets most athletes never touch. Graham proved you can turn elite athletic performance into a diversified portfolio that keeps paying long after your last snap. That's next-level financial planning, and it's why his net worth stays strong while peers who earned similar money are doing podcast ads for cash. Graham made $75 million and built global wealth. But now, we head to the most famous player on this list, who made $134 million, built a brand empire, and lives like every day is a photo shoot. Number 2. Cam Newton. Cam Newton was raised in Catawba, won the Heisman Trophy, got drafted first overall in 2011, earned 2015 NFL MVP, and led Carolina to a Super Bowl. He's the most culturally influential player on this list, and his wealth reflects the combination of elite play and brand dominance that only a few athletes ever achieve. Peak from 2015 to 2018, Under Armour reportedly paid near $10 million annually. Ad beats by Dre, Gatorade, and a Madden cover, and Newton's endorsement revenue over his career hits $40 to $50 million total. Newton's wealth structure: 65% NFL contracts, 30% endorsements, 5% business ventures, including Fellowship Restaurant and Cigar Lounge in Atlanta. Made by Cam Newton clothing brand, YouTube monetization, and podcast content. He transitioned from athlete to media personality, extending his earning window beyond football into content creation and lifestyle branding. But Newton spends like someone who knows his brand requires visibility. 10,000 square foot custom mansion in Charlotte. Rolls-Royce Cullinan worth $400,000. Ferrari 488. Lamborghini Urus. Extensive jewelry collection and designer wardrobe that probably costs more annually than most people's mortgages. His lifestyle is brand-driven black capitalism. High visibility, high consumption, high risk, but massive reward when it works. After taxes, federal hitting 37% during peak years in both North Carolina and Massachusetts, plus lifestyle expenses that dwarf most athletes, Newton's current net worth sits between $50 to $75 million. That's enormous. but it's also more volatile than guys like Peppers because Newton's wealth depends on maintaining brand relevance, which requires constant output and staying in the cultural conversation. Newton represents modern athlete wealth at its peak. Elite performance plus endorsement empire plus business ventures equals massive fortune, but only if you keep the machine running. His brand power is undeniable, but it requires feeding constantly, which gets harder as you age out of relevance. Still, $75 million and counting isn't bad for a kid from Catawba who dared to be different. But while Newton made $134 million in lives with grandeur, his fortune still requires constant maintenance. Meanwhile, our number one made $164 million, bought farmland instead of Ferraris, and built wealth so stable it's basically bulletproof. Number 1. Julius Peppers. Julius Peppers was born in Bailey, North Carolina, became a dual-sport legend at UNC, got drafted second overall in 2002, and spent 17 seasons building the most structurally sound fortune on this list. Defensive Rookie of the Year. 159.5 career sacks, top 5 all-time. 9 Pro Bowls, 2024 Hall of Fame inductee. Peppers wasn't just great. He was great for long enough to accumulate generational wealth the smart way. Peppers' total NFL contracts summed to roughly $164 million, making him one of the highest-paid defenders of his era. His major deals included a 6-year, $91.5 million contract with Chicago in 2010 that was structured perfectly. Front-loaded guarantees, performance escalators, bonus structures that paid early. Over 17 seasons across Carolina, Chicago, and Green Bay, Peppers collected every dollar and invested it like someone who actually understood what generational wealth means. His wealth is 95% salary-driven with minimal endorsement dependency, which worked in his favor because he never needed brand deals to stay rich. After federal taxes, state exposure across 3 states, and agent fees, Peppers kept roughly $75 to $80 million of that $164 million gross. Current net worth sits between $60 to $70 million, the highest on this list and, crucially, the most stable. Here's what separates Peppers from everyone else. He didn't inflate his lifestyle to match his earnings. He owns a Miami waterfront estate worth around $5 million, holds significant land ownership in rural North Carolina, maintains almost zero public luxury presence, and keeps social media essentially non-existent. His wealth is allocated into farmland that appreciates steadily, real estate in Florida and North Carolina that generates passive income, and diversified long-term investments that compound without requiring active management. Peppers represents legacy capital, wealth designed to outlast generations rather than fund a lifestyle. He could never work another day, and his net worth would grow through real estate appreciation and investment returns. Unlike Newton, whose wealth requires maintaining brand relevance and constant hustle, Peppers' money is locked in assets that work for him 24/7 without him lifting a finger. Peppers is the blueprint for Black NFL wealth done perfectly. Maximize earnings during your career, avoid lifestyle inflation like it's poison, invest in appreciating assets, prioritize stability over flash, and build something that lasts beyond your playing days. He's not the most famous player on this list, but he's the richest and the smartest about money. And in 20 years, when some of these guys are broke, Peppers' grandkids will still be living off the empire he built. That's the real victory. And these were the 8 richest Black NFL players from North Carolina whose fortunes range from comfortable to empire-level generational wealth. Which of these stars impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments. And for more such interesting peeks into the lives of Black celebrities, take a look at Black Status. Also, don't forget share this with someone who thinks making the NFL means automatic riches, because we just proved wealth is built through decisions, not just talent. Catch you next time.